when I went to Toronto on September 2nd, uh, two sold out shows at the Royal Theater, and I I didn't want to bring pot to another country because I don't want to I got to go through customs and I don't want to get caught and
Right.
spend time in jail in a foreign country. And then when I get to my hotel right across the street, there's a pot store in Toronto. I was like, oh, it's legal here. I didn't even know. But I had already decided to not smoke. And so I decided, well, let's just go for the weekend without smoking. And then I decided I just wanted to continue. And long story short, I can't sleep without it because I've been smoking pot for 20 years. And so I decided I would just smoke a bowl before I went to sleep. And that's what I did for a while. And then I went
Hmm.
to Italy. And again, I didn't want to bring weed with me to another country. And I couldn't get any weed in Italy. And so I just went cold turkey there, didn't sleep the whole fucking time. And then when I came back, I just continued. It's just like I just lost the urge. I just
Hmm.
people are like, "Oh, did your life get fucked up?" No, pot actually was helpful to me in a lot of ways, and it didn't become destructive. It just, for whatever reason, and I chalk it up to this unconscious journey I'm on, going into my this Jungian unconscious journey, and once you surrender, like you're the part of your consciousness that you're aware of, when you're awake,
Hmm.
you're is not in control. It is not in control. There's it's that this that is the iceberg. Most of the icebergs underneath the water.
Right.
The same
Right.
thing with who you are. Who you are is mostly hidden from you,
Right.
and
Right.
it's in your unconscious. And so this journey into my unconscious, and one of the part of it is,
You're
self.
confronting the shadow self.
Yes, and you come and you recognize that you're not in control. It's almost religious in a sense that your
Hmm.
unconscious, which is where God is in control. And and the way to salvation, as Jung says, is through complete surrender by keeping your eyes on the center. And the eyes on the center means the self, capital S, which is God. He used
Right.
different terms. He didn't want to be, dismissed by talking in those kind of terms. So he called it the self, capital S, and that's who you are. That's your conscious mind, your unconscious coming together, and the self. And so I've realized that I'm actually not in control and that there's a greater power in control, and that's in my unconscious. And so it's led me to accept every situation that am in. Eckhart Tolle has a saying. He said, treat every situation you're in as if you have chosen it yourself.
Hmm.
Well, you actually did. Carl Jung had a way of saying it. He said the unconscious sets up the future well in advance, which is why it can be guessed at by clairvoyance. And so every time I experience a situation that I don't want or I don't accept, I accept it. Like, oh my God, obviously the greater power that is in my unconscious set this up for a reason. There's not that I'm not going to try and change it but what is it here for? It's here for a reason. I'm not in control. What am I supposed to learn? Even illnesses. Gabor Mate talks about that. Your
Right.
body say no, and your body's giving you a message. And not that you don't take medicine and try to get better, but that it's there for a purpose, and it's there. And if you can actually um, accept that it's there for a person, you can actually grow and learn from it. And so that's the kind of journey I'm on. And the pot thing, I never thought I would ever quit smoking pot. And it didn't take any energy for me, and it didn't take an act of will to stop smoking. It just kind of fell away. Like I just didn't need it anymore. It's what Bill Hicks said about alcohol. They asked him, why did you quit drinking? And he said, I just didn't need it anymore. And
Right.
he needed it to get to a place
Right.
that he wanted to get to, as did I. I needed weed to get to a place as a performer and a creative person that I couldn't get to without it. And I haven't needed it for quite a while. I can get to, so I stopped smoking pot before I went on stage, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I used to smoke pot and go on stage, and it really made me a much better performer. And I don't need it. I haven't needed it for a while. So I stopped doing that, and I don't need it to write anymore or to create. And so I just kind of let it go. So just to explain to people, I just kind of let it go. And it's not some Herculean effort. But what is the Herculean effort is that I am going through withdrawal. So I didn't know that it was so physically addicting, and it is. This idea, I didn't think it was physically addicting, marijuana. It is, and I'm really going through it. So I was in bed all the way up till a half hour before I came on the air with you, feeling like I had the flu. And so I got up and
Right.
I took a really hot shower, and then and I had a couple of cups of hot tea, and that led me to feel kind of where I am able to do your show. And so I don't know. I like talking about it because I wish I had heard someone talk about it before I went through it. And so I want to talk about it, and I appreciate you giving me the platform to talk about it. Do either of you smoke pot?
I never did. It always made me tired. I mean, I smoked a handful of times in my life, but I just never took to it.
All right. So I smoked a lot when I was way too young to be smoking. I smoked a lot when I was 14 and 15. And then something happened. There was a big pot bust in New York City when I was 15. They seized this whole shit, and it was dry for like 2 weeks.
Ah,
You could not get pot. And my head cleared out immediately.
really?
And I stopped. Like here and there, I smoked a joint, but I was a pothead. All my friends were. We were all these heavy metal potheads, right?
Uh-huh.
But after that, because I saw how it was affecting me, I saw what the effect was by being off it for a couple of weeks. But what you're going through, what you're talking about, that is what I went through when I quit smoking during COVID.
Smoking
Nicotine,
cigarettes?
nicotine, yeah.
Nicotine, I that shit, because look, the physical nicotine addiction, that's gone pretty quickly, but that gets into the whole way that your brain regulates itself. Same thing. I couldn't sleep. I went insane. I went completely insane.
Really?
I couldn't sleep for over a month. I could not sleep for more than 2 hours at a time.
So that's where
Yeah.
I'm at. That's where I'm at. I sleep for
No, as you were talking about that, I was like, listen, man, Keaton was a very good partner because he stuck with me through that, and I was not in a good place. Like that was all because not only are you going to be dealing with all the shifts, you're going to be dealing, not to get personal, you're going to be dealing with the things that made you smoke in the first place. Those things come out. Like you said, you're on a Jungian journey, that subconscious, all that stuff. You're right. Your behavior is defined by all the stuff that you're avoiding. And
Mhm.
once you stop avoiding it, you're able to integrate and become a much happier, healthier person. But it's a rough trip, man. It's a rough
What
trip getting there.
so I was also a cigarette smoker. I loved cigarettes.
Nothing ever got on top of me like cigarettes did, man. I never had trouble picking up or putting down alcohol. Obviously, I never had trouble with pot. Cigarettes got on me at like that was the monkey on my back for 27 years. I couldn't quit.
So I mean, they were like my buddy. I liked cigarettes. Like I just liked having them around, you know.
Well, a
And
great Hitchens bit on cigarettes. He says, it's your perfect little friend. He says, if you're hungry, you smoke a cigarette, you don't want to eat anymore. If you have no appetite and you want to sort of get the appetite going, have a little smoke,
Right?
get the
Yep.
appetite going. It'll keep you up. If you're tired, it'll help you relax if you can't fall asleep. And then he says,
Well,
come to think of it, I don't know why I ever quit the shit. I don't even think about why I ever gave it up.
well, it gives you what's dangerous about cigarettes and what's self-medicating about it is it's giving you those little dopamine hits, which gives your brain the illusion that something good is happening, that you're accomplishing something, and you're not. You're not doing anything. You're not accomplishing anything. And that is why I don't know anybody who smokes cigarettes who doesn't have something they're avoiding, right? Because it's instead of going for the stuff that's really going to make you feel good, you're giving your brain the illusion that you're doing something or feeling good about what's happening around you. And that's why you quit. And that is a big, big mind fuck because all of a sudden your brain has to manufacture its own dopamine and has to actually face reality and find happiness without a substance. And it sounds similar to what you're going through.
so when I um my quitting cigarettes uh I, in retrospect it has to do with my unconscious, and this was probably around 2010 maybe. I was working in San Francisco, And I had this. I remember I had this dream, and in the dream, my brother and I, my brother who's a smoker also, we were back on the job, the construction job, and we were eating burritos, and in the burrito was tar. It wasn't. It was just filled with tar, and I'm eating it, and I'm like, "What the
Well,
fuck? This is."
it's like Detroit style, right?
So it was, and it was making me sick to my stomach. Yet I kept eating it, and I'm like, "Why are we fucking eating these things?" And my brother's like, "I don't know. We just kept eating it. It's like because you got to eat lunch." And so I just kept eating it in my stomach. And when I woke up, I was a little sick to my stomach from the dream. And then every time I went to have a cigarette, I thought about that dream and I got sick to my stomach. And so I didn't smoke and I never had a cigarette since then.
Wow.
And it wasn't hard. Again, it was just like pot. It was just like I just let it go. I didn't go through. I had quit before and it was hard.
Right,
But
right.
but this time it was like a gift
You
from
were ready. Yeah.
it was a gift from my unconscious, and it just was like, "Hey, you got to let this go," and I just let it go, and that was that. So that was like now I don't know, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and like I always knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to be a fucking 60-year-old smoker. That's the dumbest thing you could do. And I knew I was going to quit at some point, but I just wasn't.
Right.
And so yeah, so that's how it happened for me. And I don't remember having a hard time with the sleeping or anything, but that's because I was probably smoking weed. So I had weed.
I
Right.
find people who smoke weed, who also smoke cigarettes, don't really go through that shit when they quit smoking.
That's it.
Right,
So
because you have
Yeah.
another thing, right?
Yeah.
yeah, my weed smoking increased for sure when I quit
Right.
smoking cigarettes. Yeah, so that covered over all the withdrawal
Exactly.
from cigarettes, and now I got nothing to cover over the withdrawal from cigarettes, and I feel so shitty. I'm not even drinking alcohol, right? And
Right.
not even sake when I nothing. Uh, so yeah, it's quite a journey.
Please clap.